And one of the things we're trying to do is prove that we've come through one of the worst periods in American history. We've never had a president that has taken so much power to himself, away from the Congress, away from the courts, and away from the American people. In addition, he's gotten us into a war now that we find out was a war that we were lied about, that he did not tell the truth. When you stop to think about it, Iraq, if we sent over 3 battalions and some light artillery, we could stop the Iraqi military activity, and there's no way in the world that they put us at risk. And then the distortions and exaggerations that went on. Hussein didn't like Osama bin Laden. They were not working together. But more than a third of the American people, when they started voting for president, they believed that we were fighting terrorist enemies. We bought and created the terrorists that started coming on in Iraq. And that is a shameful thing. When you think of the hundreds of thousands of Iraqi, I know we've lost 3,000 or more of our own troops, but think of hundreds of thousands of people that have nothing to do with terror, that don't like it any more than you or I, and they had this ancient civilization destroyed because of Rumsfeld and Cheney and Bush. Now, I want to make something clear. Because impeachment comes up in the Judiciary Committee, so I want to make a very clear statement about this, and I hope that you don't take offense with the fact that although I began the subject, we don't have time to impeach the most impeachable president of all time, because next year we're going to take over the White House and get more Democrats in the Senate and in the House of Representatives so we can really get some things done. We've got too many things to fix up. Impeachment, and I can tell you I've been on more than anybody in the House of Representatives or the Senate, it polarizes naturally. I mean, you're talking about taking somebody out of office. And as Steve Cohen, our congressman, has mentioned, we found out there were no weapons of mass destruction. There were no aluminum tubes. That they were planning on a war. Vice President Cheney told the Republican senators at a luncheon that it isn't a matter of if we're going to go into Iraq, it's when we're going to go into it. Now that doesn't sound like an enemy getting ready to attack us. It sounds like us getting ready to conduct a preemptive strike against a country that, even though we despised the dictator that Hussein was, that we didn't intend to destroy these people and now create a situation where there's not going to be any victory for anybody. It's a very tough position that we're left in. But I want to tell you, we're going to do oversight on all of this activity. We found out that the president was doing signing statements. After he'd signed a bill, he would declare parts of it to be unconstitutional and that he refused to enforce it, that we didn't know anything about. We didn't know about the warrantless wiretaps that were going on of Americans not connected with terrorism that they were spying on. We didn't know that we were engaged in acts of rendition where we would kidnap people and send them to countries that engaged in torture. We didn't know that we would take the Geneva Convention Treaty against torture of enemies and violated ourselves. It goes on and on and on. Please look at our web pages for more information. It's really a tragic situation that this war has now cost us in excess of, these are University of Michigan economists, in excess of $2 trillion. $2 trillion. And at the same time, as the congressman indicated, we are cutting back on all of our domestic programs. We are paying the price for all of the costs of the war, and yet our troops are not getting the kinds of armor and the kinds of protection that they deserve. And so all you had to do was read the polls from November 7th. The American people said enough. We don't believe you anymore, Mr. President. His ratings are the only one with lower ratings than him was Richard Nixon, and he's in his low 30s. The people don't believe him anymore. Many of us didn't believe him before most of the people stopped believing him. It wasn't any great mystery. I'm always amazed about the people that say, he tricked us. Well, if he could trick you with the kind of preposterous exaggerations, then you don't need to be examining in public office where this country should go, because we're in a state of nuclear escalation. And we don't need people that are easily tricked. You got to figure this out. I mean, there's a lot of tricking going on, but when you start wars that create the kind of havoc that the president has caused, this will be his legacy, and we want to start fixing it up. I'm not anxious to punish him, but what we've got to do is make sure it never happens again, and that nobody like him ever becomes president of the United States again. That's what I'm about. The reason that I think we're on the right track is because there are so many people like you and I and Congressman Cohen. You know, we just want a fair deal for everybody in this country, and may I add, for everybody in the world. What's wrong with that? I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. Our Constitution is the most emulated one in history. But you've got to practice what you preach. You can't just walk around with a Constitution talking that talk. We've got to provide some jobs and some homes and some schools and some health care and some retirement for people in this country, and what is happening now, we're losing it. And so I want you to know that we feel that we have a very strong advocate for all of these issues now that has come from Memphis and is going to make his mark. He's already attracted a lot of attention because he speaks out on what he believes, and it makes me proud to have him as a member of the House Judiciary Committee.
Before I open it to questions,